Hi people, Morino Ravenberg here again. In this video, as you can see, this is a neutral topic. This is a neutral topic. Specifically, let's just say my educational background and my work experience. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but people have asked me, they want to know more about me. And I've already divulged a good deal of information about my own personal life. And I've already discussed, in other videos, I've already discussed part of my work experience, what I did as a means of income before I became an occultist, or before I actually was an occultist by trade, so by profession. And in this video specifically, I've never done a video specifically on that. So as the header states, I'm simply in this video going to discuss my educational level and my work experience to those to whom it might interest, okay, to whom it appeals. I am a senior high school dropout. I went to elementary school, of course, just the usual junior high school, senior high school. But due to occult-related issues that pretty much left me mentally paralyzed and unable to barely even memorize one page of a book, which was a disaster in an educational sense. Due to all of that chaos that my life was at that time, I could barely even move. I could barely do anything. I was just completely out of it. I was mentally completely out of it, and as a result, I simply failed miserably. Despite the fact that if I were to go back to school nowadays, I'd easily ace it because I'm in peak condition mentally. But back then, I was just completely paralyzed, and I ended up wasting 4 years approximately going to school, and pretty much just drifting around school. Honestly, I was the literal definition of a seat filler. I was a seat filler, simply put, seat filler. And by that time it was already 2006. It was already 2006, and I was 20 years old. Around 20 years old. And that's when I simply dropped out of school because circumstances simply made me see that it's not worth going to school anymore. I simply had an epiphany, and I had 2 classmates sitting next to me, and I simply went like this: I'm not going to go to school anymore. I'm not going to come to school anymore. This is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Because globally, but specifically in my country of residence, my current country of residence, the corruption ratio is ridiculously high, well past 80% approximately, like at least 80% minimum. So the majority of people that have high-ranking employment within companies, they fulfill positions of management, or people that are generally speaking, neither suited for that role, nor did they earn it. You just think about the woman that slept with the boss to get where she's at. That's the kind of deal that you'll come across in 4 out of 5 companies here. What else can I say? It simply seemed wiser to me and more practical to start working at that age because even if I were to attend a university, which was also, like I said, it was practically impossible due to my bad mental state. But even if theoretically speaking I were to go to a university and simply get a university-based degree, like a bachelor's degree or similar, it's a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time because I'd simply end up having to work a job that I am overqualified for. A simple run-of-the-mill job such as a gas station attendant or a store clerk, or work at any company and do either administration or something similar, you name it, accounting, you name it, okay, any run-of-the-mill job. That's my point, and that's why I dropped out, because it's impractical to do so. It's overkill, okay, wasting all of those resources and all of that time, not to mention extra years off of your life, going to get the highest possible degree you can get and then not being able to use it. That's like buying a tractor that costs $500,000 and not using that tractor. That's my point. And yeah, of course I have the insight, okay, even in my bad mental condition or state, I still have the insight, the level of insight to actually see that, as opposed to the majority of quote unquote people in my location. And in any case, I simply dropped out and I said to myself, okay, I'm just going to choose a career path and I'm going to stick to it so I can build up as much experience as possible. And before I became an occultist, what I was by trade was simply a security specialist, if you want to call that. The first company I worked for, it was 2007. It took me a year to find work, any kind of documentative work, that is. I started in 2007. And I worked for approximately 4.5 years for a security company. That was my very first official job. I stopped, or I quit at that company in 2011. And then I went to a competitive security company and I worked there for 3.5 years. And I have all the degrees, everything, you name it. I had on-the-job course trainings, you name it, everything relating to security. Indoor as well as outdoor. So I was originally a base station operator. A base station operator are the kind of guys that, or a dispatcher, they're the kind of guys that simply sit, behind the screen and then alert people when the alarm has gone off in their house with all the relevant details, while sending out the surveillance team to survey the area. It's similar to a 911 operator, but on a security level or on the security front. That's where the majority of my experience lies. I had, let's just say, 5 years of experience, and the other 3 years of experience specifically are outdoor work. Yes, I've done outdoor work. I've worked as a security guard, so I know exactly what it's like. I know what all the drawbacks are, what the benefits are, if any, and it just goes on. For example, I've been stationed up at worthless holes, at god-awful locations, exposed to the weather and all the other elements, outdoor elements, without any real accommodation whatsoever in the way of sanitary accommodations or an overall roof over my head, you name it. Yeah, I know what it's like to really work as a security guard to the point where you feel like you're almost like a stray dog, because that's what the job sometimes makes you feel, specifically the way you're treated at the job. In any case, 3 years of experience worth of that, and I have all the documents to prove it, all of it, because something that also the rest of the people in my area overlook is that you need to, whenever you stop working somewhere, you need to ask an employer statement. The employer is usually, globally speaking, by law mandated to give you a statement, as that statement serves as proof that you've worked there. So no one has to take your word for it, because if you go somewhere else, you go to a competitive company and you tell them, listen, I have relevant work experience, which will definitely impact your income, your monthly income, then yeah, obviously you need to bring up the proof. You need documentative proof, and it's simply proper. You need to receive an employer statement that simply serves as proof that you actually work there, on which all the details are written down, as in you've worked there for 4 years, blah 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 blah. This was the position you fulfilled, and whatnot. Just basic information that you worked there, how long you worked there, what your position was, and the story. Potentially how much your income was. You name it. In any case, that is that. And after that, it already had been 8 years, and we were 2015. And in 2015, I quit at that job. The majority of my experience, mundane-wise speaking, is in the security sector, like I already said. After that, I simply went to work due to personal reasons, I simply quit that security job and I started working at a call center. It's a call center primarily where Dutch companies that outsource their services to my location are stationed or have an office. and I worked for a Dutch telecommunications provider that specialized in digital forms of entertainment, including internet, so TV, you name it. Getting a channel package deal, you name it, internet, telephone services or related services, mobile data packages, blah 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 blah. Just a general telecom company. And I worked there for a year and a half, approximately a year to a year and a half. After that, I quit and I went to work a year long. I worked a year long as a dating site moderator. A dating site moderator is someone that moderates dating sites. And what I did specifically was, is I essentially entertained customers by chatting them up and whatnot. Honestly, the job is very shady. The job was very shady. It borders on fraud. The only thing that doesn't make it fraud is the fact that I already discussed this. I discussed this in a previous video in relation to dating sites. Most dating sites out there are fake, and 9 out of 10 times you're not dealing with an actual person, but you're dealing with, metaphorically 9 out of 10 times, you're dealing with someone that's pretending to be a woman or a man or whomever you're chatting to, and that profile is just a fake profile. There are ways to check this, of course. You can cross-reference the person's profile picture, you name it. Bottom line is that's what I did for a living. So in essence, I would pretend to be a woman and I would simply chat with guys, and I was supposed to adhere to general rules such as not making or scheduling any physical dates or appointments, because that's not possible because the profile's fake. And you simply need to get people to spend as much money as possible since they pay by the message. And make no mistake, okay, don't underestimate the business. It's a very lucrative business that makes a lot of money. You can imagine that if one heterosexual man comes onto a dating website looking for a woman, whether he's looking for love or sex or both, or anything else for that matter, or even a homosexual, male or female, whatever. If only one of those people spends $50 worth of messages before calling it quits, and if 10,000 people say that on a daily basis, then yeah, the company is $500,000. I'm sorry if I'm miscalculating this, but as I recall, it's $500,000. Okay, 10,000 times 50 equals $500,000. $500,000 just for the revenue, just for that day, gross revenue. So you can imagine, it's just an example, just a figure of speech, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's what I did for a living, and I've worked for UK-based dating websites based in the Netherlands and Belgium, you name it. Since I speak both the languages, of course, I speak English and Dutch fluently. I also speak Spanish, but at a basic or elementary level. And yeah, that's pretty much it. By that time, it was already 2017, and my business had gained traction. Truth be told, I already did that. I was already an occultist ever since I worked at that call center, but I didn't do it for a living yet. I wasn't as skilled as I am now, obviously not. No. I wasn't even remotely skilled comparable by today's levels or standards, by my own standards. I was more or less like the average occultist out there. I wasn't able to produce really results to the point where I could do this for a living, occultism for a living. But around 2017, the jobs also intertwined with my occult life, because spirits that I worked with got me these dating moderator side jobs and whatnot. So it intertwined basically. They both combined with each other, or they merged with each other. The one cross-reference with the other and vice versa. But in any case, by 2017, I could officially, I was officially an occultist for hire, and I practice occultism for a living. And yeah, the rest is history that most of you that are watching this are already familiar with. Bottom line is that I'm an occultist for a living now. I practice occultism for a living, and I offer occult-related services to people. My website states that. Whenever you visit my website, it's the first thing that you'll find, the main page, etc., etc. For people that are wondering what it was like for me, whether I enjoyed myself at all or anything like that, the answer is a resolute no. Okay? As a young adult, all I wanted to do ever since I came into contact with occultism, I wanted to practice the occult for a living. Mundane jobs, I simply hated them. I hated mundane jobs, and I hated, honestly, I hated being young overall. Being a child is not fun. Okay, it all depends on your perspective, but I didn't like it because of the lack of respect. People usually talk down to you adults when you're a child, and they actually think that you don't know anything, you're a stupid kid and stuff like that. And the lack of freedom and dependency on your elders is also what I dislike. As an adult now, I'm free to do as I please, pack and stand whatever the hell I want, do whatever I want. If I want to go to Germany, right this very second, I don't owe anyone I'm sorry. If I want to do something like that, I don't owe anyone any kind of thingy whatsoever. The power briefly fall out. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, I don't owe anyone any explanation in any way, shape, or form. You name it. I do what I want, where I want, how I want it, more or less. And you can't attach a price tag to that level of freedom. And people also respect me since I'm an adult, of course. What else can I say? Or did I forget to say or mention? Yeah, the jobs, no, I hated these jobs. I hated these jobs for the same reason that the average person would hate these jobs. No wonder they were run-of-the-mill dead-end jobs that had little to nothing in the way of expansive opportunities. So you can't work your way up to management level or anything like that, not to mention due to the gross levels of corruption. And it just goes on and on and on, okay? Excessive working hours, bad working conditions, bad working circumstances, gross mismanagement. The manager doesn't know anything, you know more than the manager. It just goes on and on and on, okay? The companies that I work for were nothing but crappy companies, but yeah. The country, what's supposed to pass for a country that I live in is nothing but a crappy excuse for a country. As I've said for the millionth time, not that I like to repeat myself, but bottom line is that yeah, there were good moments, that I could get along with colleagues and whatnot, just general superficial engagement or socializing with colleagues. That was fun at a superficial level. But my point still is that the absolute majority of it was bad, okay? The ratio of good to bad moments is 1 to 100. And it's an understatement to say that that's a bad ratio. For every good moment I experienced on the job as well as overall, there were 99 bad moments. So yeah, that's just foobar. That's just fucked up beyond all recognition. In any case, that's what I did for a living before I became an occultist officially, by trade, and that's what I have in the way of general education. For those of you that are wondering, where I got English from, okay, my native language is Dutch. And for those of you that are wondering how I learned English, I didn't learn anything, honestly. I grew up with 80% American culture and 20% European culture, more or less. So English is practically my native language, despite the fact that Dutch is my native language on paper. I was able to speak and write and understand English ever since I was a child. Because everything I did was in English. I rarely even communicated in Dutch. So yeah, English is a lot more practical, and it's the language that I attach the most value to. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And last but not least, the Spanish is simply due to the fact that in school I had to choose an extra language pack as part of my curriculum, and Spanish is one of the ones that I could choose because there was nothing else left to choose. And yeah, I still remember a good deal of my Spanish from my high school days, and I've only further enhanced that, so hence me also speaking Spanish up to a basic level. So yeah, that's all. I'll see you guys later. Bye.